Warning, this content may be disturbing to some audiences. Subscribe, if you dare. My husband just learned that you don't mess around when your oil light comes on your dashboard. Hey everybody, welcome to ANECDOSED. People ask Reddit. Reddit, what did you learn the hard way? Number 1. Commenter. Press the Ctrl+S every few minutes. Person B. Probably my all-time favorite habit as a programmer. Never lost a Word/Excel document in school because of this. On the downside, I sometimes try to save websites, but it's worth it. Person C. I was working on this piece of code. A bit complicated with lots of interweaving function calls and stuff. And suddenly the editor goes boom, and the whole thought process goes F. This was long back when I was just starting with programming and keyboard shortcuts weren't a habit, but it was a hard lesson. Person D. It's incredible that a tool made by programmers for programmers doesn't have an autosave function or a version control system. Number 2. Commenter. If someone wants to break up with you, let them. Person B. Just had to do this weekend. Distance became too much for her and she knew she didn't have enough time to give to me. So yes, as much as it hurts in any situation, let them end things if that is what is on their mind. Keeping things going will only make things worse. Number 3. Commenter. If someone is capable of doing a horrible thing to someone else, they're absolutely capable of doing it to you too. Person B. Yes. And if people are talking shit about someone who isn't there, you can be sure they're talking shit about you when you're not around too. Person C. Though I was done with this shit in high school, I was in a rude awakening on my first day at my real job. The 60-year-old guy who just met me starts rattling off everything wrong with everybody in the office. Lo and behold, not too long after, I hear him a few cubicles down talking shit about me as well. Number 4. Commenter. Other people don't see you the same way that you see you. The obvious corollary is that you should stop damn overthinking everything. No one that matters is really bothered enough to judge you. But it's also worth bearing in mind that it's entirely possible to think you're being kind-hearted and so on, without actually being it. It's important to consider that you are coming across the way you mean to. I know they sound at odds with one another, but they're really not, and I think they're both important life lessons. Person B. We judge ourselves by our intentions, and others by their actions. I have to struggle to keep this one in mind. Number 5. Commenter. Don't buy a house at the absolute top of your budget. Just because you are approved for a certain amount of credit doesn't mean you should use it. Person B. Can't upvote this comment enough. Never live at your means. Always live below it and bank the rest. You never know when you'll need it, and you'll always sleep easier. Person C. After we sold our first home, and we were lucky enough that it was in a sought-after area, we decided to pay 30% less for our second house. I don't miss the extra bedroom, and I am so much happier with the security net of a little extra cash for a rainy day. Person D. My wife and I made a combined total of $40,000 at the time. We were approved for a $210,000 mortgage. We made the decision not to be retarded, best decision ever, and bought a much more modest home well within our budget. Number 6. Commenter. Respect your body. Sometimes you break something and it's never the same. Ever. I broke my ankle and thought it was a sprain, so I just threw an ace bandage on it and left it alone. I found out 2 years later that it was actually a broken bone, and it never healed back together. Now I've got a dead ankle socket. I used to go on daily runs, and do martial arts. Now I can't even turn my foot. I went from 190 pounds of lean muscle to 145 pounds of squish and bones. Edit 2. I'm not in a wheelchair, but I have a permanently broken ankle. The medical term is non-union fracture of the navicular bone. This is the navicular. That socket you see is where the talus sits. If you cut that picture in half vertically, that's the current state of my bone. So I now have 2 dead bones where one healthy bone should be. Person B. Like, your teeth, for example. Edit. It's funnier when you know that I knocked 2 of my teeth out a few months ago. False teeth suck. Person C. Doesn't need to be a bone break either, could be gnarly muscle sprains and tears. I've had some major sprains and minor ligament tears in my ankles from playing soccer and ice hockey, and it's hard to get your muscles back to where they were before. Severe muscle spasms in your back suck too. I was jacked up for about a year and a half. Person D. This. I am 27, and have started feeling the consequences already. Rock climbing since I was 12, I always ignored the warming up, stretching and exercises. I just climbed, and it was hard. Now my wrists and elbows are giving out and I have all sorts of tendon issues. I have moved across the world to climb Europe, and I'm finding I can't really climb. Not a good place to be. Number 7. Work to live, don't live to work. When I was in my late 20s and 30s, I devoted a lot of weekends to work to put in extra time and to step it up. And I remember the times my mom would ask me to take her to Bing. Answer would be, sorry, I'm working this weekend. Then she died. Now I'm in my 40s and not a day goes by that I don't think about the times I chose to spend time at work instead of doing something with her. Now when I get asked to work on the weekends, it's a big no. Your job isn't your life, nor does it really define you. Choose your family and invest your time in those things, life experiences. I learned this lesson the hard way because there's no way I can ever fix it. Just thought I'd pass this on to the younger folk. I'm in my 40s and that shit still haunts me. I want to say that doesn't mean you won't have to devote some time to go that extra mile at work. I want everyone to show they can do that, but don't fall into the trap where the exception is accepted as the norm. It happens subtle, so be aware. Some of you guys are rolling the risk, whereas work hard now so I can enjoy later. I too was doing that, but like I said, boom. Mom died, and so I risked all those past opportunities for a chance later on. Try to balance both. Number 8. My husband just learned that you don't mess around when your oil light comes on your dashboard. The light would intermittently come on and go off, so he thought it was just a loose sensor or something. Last time he got an oil change, the technician told him he was about a quart low on oil. He didn't put 2 and 2 together to realize his engine was burning the oil away until we were coming back from a wedding at 1 a.m. and the engine seized up. $4,000 lesson. Don't F with your oil warning light. Number 9. Don't try to help someone who isn't willing to help themselves. I discovered my boyfriend was a pedophile. I grabbed his hard drive to watch movies off of it and discovered he had a separate, secret hard drive for CP. I got him into counseling and broke up with him, but told him that as long as he was in therapy I would be there to help him through it. He lied all the time to his therapist, but I stayed to help. He was still doing great at our university while my grades suffered, and I cried every night, but I stayed to help. He ended up beating and raping me. Luckily I was able to get a hold of incriminating texts and emails, but I'm still struggling to even get out of bed. Don't stick around for someone who isn't willing to help themselves. You need to do what's best for you before you even begin to think about what's best for others. Number 10. Commenter. That drinking Coke is insanely bad for your teeth. I drank so much of it as a child that I ended up having to have a lot of fillings. It sucked getting them done, so I stopped eating sweet things. Even now I maintain my teeth as best as I can, and I never have dental problems, except the odd wisdom tooth problem. Teeth problems are the effing worst. Don't let them sneak up on you. Person B. Yes. I used to go in and my dentist would warn me that my enamel was wearing thin and that I was at risk for having cavities on almost all my teeth. Gave up the sodas, I allow myself about 1 a week, and the hard candies, never tempted me anyway. Boom. No more teeth problems within 6 months. Pro tip for those considering cutting out sodas, it is really tough to quit. I did so by switching to sweet tea at first, yes, lots of sugar, but the acids aren't as bad, and then going to half and half sweet tea, and then alternating with more water instead of flavored drinks. Now I can drink water with just about anything, but damn, soda goes so well with pizza. Number 11. Don't get a dog with a significant other. Unless you decide from the start who gets to keep it when things go south, it really makes for a messy and even sadder breakup. I got a dog with my ex and I raised it. I'm a dog trainer. That dog came to work with me every day and slept at the foot of my bed every night. He took her during the breakup because he paid for her, and now oscillates between telling me I can maybe drive 2 hours to see her while he's away on business trips and ignoring my pleas completely. I get he's hurt, but that dog was like my child for 2 years and I haven't seen her in months. I've never felt the kind of seething frustration that I feel when I think about him. In hindsight, I'm glad I got out when I did. I'm in an amazing new town and I'm seeing a guy I'm really crazy about, and I have a bunch of amazing new friends, but damn it, I miss my dog. Number 12. I learned to be grateful and never take things for granted. I grew up in a well-off family, so I took all of my possessions, vacations, etc. for granted. I didn't really see the value of the dollar, and slowly it's becoming clearer to me. My parents allowed me to open up a bank account and get a debit card, and after about 5 months my dad took me aside and showed me that I had spent over $5,000. I have no way of explaining how a 16-year-old can go through $5,000, but I'll say that I spent it on a whim, on things like Minecraft servers, moleskins, and even water beads, basically Orbeez. It was a bit of an eye-opener for me. Another way was when he paid for my braces that I wore all through middle school so I wouldn't have to wear them in high school. Me, being the little idiot I can be, stopped wearing my retainer during junior year, and my teeth somehow didn't move back except for my 2 front teeth, which have shifted slightly to form a gap. He refuses to help my tooth gap because it happened due to my extreme carelessness, and I must say I understand. I don't ask my parents for things, often, and I wish they'd stop spending money on me, because I feel like it's being wasted, but we're of Indian descent so they feel obligated to pay for everything, including college. I feel like that's actually a terrible idea because I'd come out of college with the mentality that my parents can take care of me forever. Number 13. That being teased doesn't necessarily mean you're being bullied, that being shy can be perceived as being rude, and that being a sore loser is just plain ugly. This weekend I went to my girlfriend's lake house in Tennessee. Their family is huge, with 50+ family members. They have a tradition of picking on the new boyfriends and girlfriends, and I ended up taking it personally. In retrospect, it was a sign of affection. Because I thought they all hated me, I decided to stay to myself. I got out of the way, didn't participate in activities, and stayed inside for extended periods of time. I thought this was a good idea because it meant I would avoid being harassed, but this greatly insulted the family. Finally, this weekend was my first time water skiing, and I got frustrated at myself. Even though I kept it inside, it still upset the family that I was quiet and pouty. The weekend was a disaster. My girlfriend, smartly, broke up with me, and now I'm left with very few friends. It's hard to think about how many times doing these things have impacted both my personal and romantic relationships, but at least it's a start. I'm speaking with a therapist this evening to start figuring out why I react in these ways. TL, Doctor, not understanding social cues results in a failed relationship, much introspection, and a effing terrible sunburn all over my body. Make sure to share your personal story in the comments below and have the opportunity to be featured in a future video. Also, if you like these topics, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification button to continue seeing more content like this every day. See you next time.